Good afternoon and welcome to the STS-129 post-launch news conference. A very exciting day. We're all very pleased to be here, and with us today are NASA's Associate Administrator for Space Operations, Mr. Bill Gerstenmaier.
Afternoon.
Space Shuttle Program Launch Integration Manager and Chairman of the Mission Management Team, Mike Moses.
Good afternoon.
And Shuttle Launch Director, Mike Leinbach.
Good afternoon.
We'll begin with opening comments from the panel, and then we'll be happy to take your questions. So, Mr. Gerstenmaier?
Thanks, Mike. It was a great day today. The count was extremely smooth, and Mike and Michael talked to you a little bit about how the count went, but things were just great. The weather was looked a little shaky this morning, but they assured us it was going to get fine, and it sure did. The launch was just beautiful. The ascent was great. And I can't say enough about the teams that really got this vehicle ready to fly. If you think about Atlantis, its last trip was to the Hubble Space Telescope, and then we turned that vehicle around to get ready to go fly this time. And from the ascent activities, everything was fine. We didn't see any anomalies during ascent. The vehicle performed extremely well. We still have a tough mission in front of us. We still got a lot of activities to do with the space station. We need to stay focused on that, but it looked very, very good. We saw 3 small foam events. One at 2 minutes and 55 seconds. It's not going to be a concern. It's after the aerodynamic sensitive time, and then 2 other events very late, 6 and 7 minutes. We had pretty good lighting, so we'll get a good chance to take a look at the tank, but we didn't see anything off nominal, and the teams will review the data in more detail, and they may change things a little bit. But again, congratulations to the team. What a great way to start this mission. It is exciting to be here, and it's neat to see this equipment go into space station. Mike?
Well, thanks, Bill. See, I'll probably be uncharacteristically brief today since things went so easily. You woke up this morning. I was talking to Bill, walked outside and looked up at the sky and kind of had a what the heck is that moment, because that cloud cover was certainly not in our forecast yesterday. But we talked to the weather teams, and not that talking did anything about it, but it cleared out for us and turned out to be a pretty picture-perfect launch. Actually, watching it go up. I was a little worried there for our guests that they would only get to see a couple seconds before it went through the cloud deck, but turns out we had a nice clear view the whole way through about 3 minutes or so. And so it was a really good launch, and I don't have much to say because the count really was mostly just some of the cats and dogs with the technical stuff. I'll let Mike tell you about those. As a management team, we had no issues of any note to talk about. It was nice and quiet and smooth. As Bill said, now we get to the challenge of the orbit mission. 3 EVAs in front of us, a big dock mission, getting all this cargo transferred and stowed on the station, and getting it ready to go for its long-term lifetime. So with that, I'll let Mike take over.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Well, the countdown was really, really smooth today, and it kind of reflects the whole processing flow of Atlantis. I told the team afterwards that they set a new record for interim problem reports, which is our way of documenting issues during a processing flow. And Discovery used to hold that record with 74 of these problem reports, and Atlantis lifted off today with just 59, and so she set a record today, and it's really due to the team and the hardware processing, and they just did a great job, and it's a record that will probably never be broken again in the history of the Space Shuttle program, so congratulations to them. I also get to give an award after launch. I gave it to the mid-body team today. That's the group of folks who process the payload bay, essentially, of the orbiter. Down processing of the Hubble Space Telescope mission and up processing for this mission. That was our critical path, and they did just an outstanding job, and so they received the award today. Relative to the weather, we knew going into the day that those clouds were either going to get better as the sun rose and we got some heating in the atmosphere, or they were going to get worse and be a concern for us. Unlike Bill and Mike, I was optimistic the whole time that they were going to be to the good, and indeed that's what happened. And so I think our talking helped a lot. But that aside, we had a great countdown. The team was really clicking along well today, and it's a pleasure to represent them. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll take questions. Please wait for the microphone. Please let us know your name, your affiliation, and to whom you're addressing your question. And we'll start in the front row with Mike Schneider.
Mike Schneider, Associated Press. I guess my question is to Bill. I was just wondering if you could just talk about the minor fuel cell problem, what exactly it was, and is it something that will have to be addressed at the station?
What we saw a couple bit flips or a couple small changes in the voltage to the pump, to the fuel cell. We don't think it's a problem. We think it was an instrumentation thing, but we wanted to confirm that because it could be something if it dramatically got worse. We didn't see anything at all during ascent. It looks pretty good. I don't anticipate anything on orbit. It should be fine. We may do a unique test on the ground when we get back during the post-landing rollout to check things out and turn it around, but I don't think there's anything there that really warrants any concern at all. And Mike, you might want to add anything?
Yeah, I was just going to say the measurement that we're looking at is trying to measure the it's trying to indirectly tell you if a pump is spinning in that fuel cell, and so it's on AC power, and so it's doing a comparison of the voltage there compared to the rest of the voltage. So as things come on and off of that fuel cell, it affects the ratio of that calculation, so it kind of jumps around on its own. And so we saw on the last flight of Atlantis that at one point in time we had adjusted some lighting in the crew cabin, and it caused a little bit of noise come in, and you saw that signal jump around a little bit. But when they turned the lighting back down, it went away. We kind of think that maybe we have a lighting circuit that's got, you could probably kind of equate it to a fluorescent light in your house. It's got a little noisy ballast to it, and it flickers a little bit. So there's probably something like that going on. Well, that's speculation, but so really it's no problem whatsoever. It's just this sensor's made to respond to that kind of noise, and it was seeing some noise. We just wanted to make sure that wasn't some other source, and we were pretty able to get through that. In fact, we didn't actually officially take paperwork in this launch countdown to call that a constraint. We're going to take paper to go troubleshoot it when we get it back on the ground.
Yeah, it was just such a minor problem. We didn't document it at all, as Mike said, and we have a launch commit criteria on that guy, and so we went with that, and that would have protected us if it had gotten out of hand, but never presented a problem to us at all. It was in a countdown this smooth, we have to have something to talk about, and other than the weather, that was the only thing. So it was really not a problem for us at all.
Chris?
Chris Gebhardt with NASASpaceflight.com. First of all, congratulations on your 5th safe and successful shuttle launch of the year with all those dual pad flows. So congratulations to you and your teams. And not to belabor the only point to talk about, but could you talk about how this signal was it different or similar to the one you saw on the last flight of Atlantis, or?
They said it was similar. We didn't, like I said, we didn't really go too much in depth into the data. The backroom engineering teams did. They didn't really talk it at our level too much, other than give Mike and I the summary at the end that it was pretty unanimous consent that this was a noise-induced instrumentation thing and would not affect the operation of the transducer.
Jay?
Jay Barbary with NBC. I want to ask Bill a question, but Mike, you said there you woke up this morning and then you were talking to Bill. That sounds a little strange there, but anyway.
Not going to go there.
Gotcha. Yeah. Bill, last couple of weeks there's been a plan floating around for an Ares 1X that you could fly with the escape system, the LH rockets, a few other things that would get you possibly cutting off another year off the space program. I mean the Constellation program of getting men back in orbit late 2014, 2015. Can you tell us anything about that? Are we still marching toward that, or what are your marching orders today?
Yeah, I can't really add a whole lot to that. That's really done by the Exploration Systems Mission Directorate, but I will tell you we're looking at a lot of different options, and we're being prepared to see what we can go do and plan, but I don't know any of the specifics, and I don't know any of the details of the dates, but that's being worked more by them. But I will tell you generically, we're looking at anything we can do to try to put together good concrete plans for the future.
Okay, James?
Thanks, James Dean from Florida Today. Mr. Kurtzmeyer, I mentioned just a few very minor foam events. Could you explain what those were? Were they minor because of the time that they occurred, because of the size? Also, I think there was a new camera flying on this flight, and I wondered if did we already get video from that, or has that come later?
In terms of the events, I said they're minor. They were minor because they're after the time when they can really do damage to the orbiter. There's not enough delta velocity between the piece of foam that comes off and the orbiter if it were to hit the orbiter that could cause damage. So in that sense, I consider them very minor. The ones that are very late, 6 and 7 minutes, those are really not a concern at all. This other one was 35 seconds or 40 seconds after our time when we're concerned, but again, I don't think that's a problem at all. And we had very good looks at the bottom of the orbiter. Things looked pretty good from the first camera views, so I don't see anything there that's at all concern to us. In terms of the new camera, I think it'll be flight day 2. The crew will downlink that to us, and the video should be available then, and we'll get a better chance to take a look at the ice frost ramps. And what we're interested in there is we get the pictures of the tank, and we can see some damage of those LO2 ice frost ramps. What we don't know is how that foam comes off. It may come off in little tiny pieces during the ascent, just kind of erode away. That's what we would like to see in this new camera. So we would be looking for little pieces of foam coming off. So again, when you see the video, we would expect to see little pieces of foam coming off those LO2 frost ramps, and we also should see the forward RCS window protect maneuver when those jets fire, and that should be a pretty dramatic view out the forward windows. So we'll see that on flight day 2 when the crew downlinks it from the shuttle.
Todd Halverson?
Yeah, thanks. Todd Halverson of Florida Today with a couple, if I could. First one is for Bill Gerstenmaier. I'm wondering when you anticipate hearing back from the White House in terms of the direction the human spaceflight program will be taking in the future, and how could you characterize for me how challenging and historic the year 2010 is going to be for the program?
Yeah, I guess in terms of predicting the future, it's tough to know exactly how things are going to, unfold over the next several months. We're going through our normal budget process. We'll see how that goes over the next couple months. That'll give us some indications. And then the formal president's budget gets submitted to Congress in the February timeframe. So by then, there should be some policy known, and there should be some pretty clear direction. And then that should be an indication. So I would say, kind of worst case, probably February, we'll know when the budget comes out a little bit more. But in between, it's hard for me to predict when or how that might come. So we're kind of preparing for all eventualities. In terms of next year, again, I think the teams are very well prepared. We're looking at all the flights, we're looking at all the flows, we're looking at all the equipment that goes to space station, and we're reconfirming all the work that we've done and all the planning that the teams have done to make sure that we've got everything in place that we need to have stationed in the best configuration for it to be there without the orbiter. So we're back looking through all that again. We haven't seen anything yet that really is causing any dramatic changes. The teams have done a very good job of planning, and we've got pretty good flows laid out with external tank deliveries and components down here. The processing teams are looking at the right things. We'll look at the manifest a little bit more detail. We might actually maybe even delay some of the missions a little bit to get a little better spread next year. We haven't decided that yet, but we'll take a look at that. We don't see that it causes any hurt to us overall from a big picture standpoint, and it may just ease some of the processing things. So we'll work with the Kennedy team down here and figure out the right plan. So I think we're ready to execute. I think the team is very focused. We've been executing very well, and we just need to keep that same pace up, and don't assume that it's easy, and don't think that it's time to quit looking. As soon as we start getting complacent and we think things are going well, that's when we get in trouble. So our job is to stay focused, to keep looking, to realize how hard this really is. What you saw this last year is nothing short of amazing. You talk about it conceptually, but if you look at what we did with the Hubble flight and being out at Pad B and then coming over, you look at what we did with Ares 1X, you look at the juggling that this team has done. We had the flow control valves, some other problems. We added some instrumentation on this flight to actually make sure we've got to understand the pressure environment at the back of the orbiter. We did that in a couple weeks. We put an accelerometer package in the Ohm Stinger. This is an amazing team. They are dealing with problems. They are moving forward. They're looking forward. We're at the right pace. The tempo feels good. It doesn't feel rushed. We just need to figure out a way we stay at this level of performance next year and don't either put too much stress on the system or relax too much. So the challenge will be to just kind of stay focused, just take them one flight at a time, one issue at a time, and move forward. So right now our focus is the remainder of this flight. It's not easy, as Mike said. The 3 EVAs are tough. Getting the external pallets stowed on the outside of space station, getting them activated, those are not easy activities. They appear easy, but they are not, and we need to make sure that all that activity gets done. So I think the teams are ready, and all we need to do is not get complacent and just quietly keep executing the way we've been.
And just a quick follow for one or both of the mics. You guys had a pretty amazing year, as Bill said, and I was wondering if you could just kind of put it in perspective in terms of shuttle history. It seemed like the tempo this year was a lot more similar to the tempo back in the early part of the station assembly program, and things have just been clicking. Do you feel like you're getting some type of operational pace going on?
I'll take it from a processing perspective, and you use the word clicking, and that's exactly the word I would use too. I mean, the teams are just performing in an outstanding manner. And when one orbiter has a problem and needs help from another orbiter's processing team, we call on them, they'll come over and help out. It's amazing to watch, and we get the challenges from the program and the agency to meet the dates, and typically we'll make them, and when we stand up and say we can't make a date, they're the first ones that we call, and they support us, and they know that we wouldn't say we couldn't make a date if we couldn't. And so until we cry foul, we're going to keep on processing and launching on the dates they give us. Again, if we need to take a time out, we do that, and they're fully supportive of that. And the processing guys themselves know that. We have a very strong timeout policy on the floor itself, that if we see something, one of the processing guys sees something going wrong and they don't like it, they'll call a timeout and just stand down and talk about it, and that's heralded throughout the program, and it's an amazing program, and it works well. The fact that we can get all the work done in the time that we're given, again, is a testament to the folks themselves. The hardware is good to us, of course. Every now and then we do get a couple failures, but that's just the nature of the business. The thing that really makes us come together are the people that process these vehicles. And I'm extremely proud of every one of them, and I'm happy to represent them in a forum like this.
Okay, around here, Greg with HDNet.
Thank you. Hi, Greg Dobbs with HDNet Television. If you look at this flight as the beginning of the final stage of the Space Shuttle program, preparing the station for the day when the shuttle stops flying, and you've got this and then 5 more on the schedule, how many, if at all, can you afford to lose if you have glitches and you can't keep clicking next year, and there's either political pressure or financial pressure, some other kind of pressure not to go into 2011, year 2011? How many, if at all, can you afford to lose and still leave the station in a position to survive without the shuttle?
Boy, that's a tough question. I
was say the technically the way it's laid out is we'll just drop them off the back end as we go. So nothing is critical that it must fly for the station to survive. It's just how well postured will it be without the shuttle resupplying it. So, the last couple flights are going to be big logistics flights. Resupply, we're taking AMS up. So losing those would be a loss of objectives, would be a loss of mission content, but it wouldn't mean that station has to be demanned earlier or come off. Their mean time between failures up in orbit has been really low. We're posturing all these spares up there for the future, so we could easily not have any implications if we lost a flight or two. But that said, it's an integrated manifest, and the stuff flying on the last flight all builds off the stuff that flew on the ones before it, and so to have that kind of get cut off abruptly would not be the best thing in the world. So I don't want to make it sound like a good thing or a bad thing. It just would be the way it is. That's kind of the way, Bill, we kind of set that manifest up to begin with for that possibility.
We've kind of always been prepared for that contingency like we do for planning, but we don't want to go there. As Mike said, there will be some implications. How big those implications are, we don't know. So our job, again, is to just kind of keep moving one flight at a time. This flight is big from a spare standpoint. These are all our major spares, our control moment gyros, our pump modules. The big equipment that is unique is on this flight. Then there's another flight that also has a fair number of large components too, and those are important. But is one flight more important than another? Does it fit? Not really. We've kind of spread throughout all the remaining flights, all the critical equipment to keep stationed there. We also want to pre-position some more science equipment. We want to get a couple more facilities up. We want to get Node 3 up next time. The cupola is going to come up to add some things. So each flight is unique in its own. Could we do without that flight? Probably, but there would be some impacts, and I don't want to speculate on those, and I don't want to pick my favorite flight out of the 5 and tell you it would be gone. So they're all good, and I think we got a plan to reasonably get there.
Okay, around here in the front row.
Thank you. Ken Kramer for the Planetary Society Spaceflight Magazine. I got a question for Bill and Mike Leinbach. Bill first. When do you realistically expect the first flight of the Orion? Do you expect 2015? What do you think about the Augustine prediction of 2017? And any chance to push it up possibly to 2014?
Again, I would think that if we kind of get the budget and the planning and the work in front of us, 2015 is in the realm of possibility. If we run into some snags and have some budget things or things slip out and move, then we could be later in 2016, 2017. So again, I would say it's in that time frame, and I know that's tough to pick a particular year even, but again, there's a lot of work between what we've got to do and what needs to get done. So I think it's a reasonable time frame that when we'll see the new vehicle getting ready to go launch.
Jim Siegel, Celebration Independent newspaper. There's been some speculation that maybe the space shuttle program would be extended another year or two, and I was interested in what the limiting factors of such an extension might be, and in fact, would there be any advantage to extending the shuttle as opposed to simply relying on Soyuz to do the remainder of the missions to the space station until Constellation or some of the other programs are ready?
As we kind of talked before, because of our budget constraints of where we sit with the shuttle program, we've started turning off production capability, and you know, in New Orleans we've made some cuts in New Orleans. We've essentially turned off production of external tanks. In terms of solid rocket motor casting in Utah, we've cast the last set of solid rocket motors for the contingency flight. We're doing final preparations for those. So we've already started ramping down the program, and you can even see some layoffs of some of our workers on the production side that have occurred last year. So we're in this phase-out situation, and so if we were told to extend the shuttle, it would be a finite amount of time for us to get back into production. So, you know, a tank takes roughly 3 years for us to manufacture. Solid rocket motors roughly take 2.5 years to get produced. So if we got told today to go fly more flights, you're looking at probably 3 years before we would be ready, at least with tanks, to go fly again. So that kind of sets where we would be if we got that direction. It's not too late, but it becomes more and more difficult as time progresses. You know, it's almost like the other question, right? These are really tough. There's not a binary, it's too late, it's okay. We really have done a lot of things over the last year that have cut our production capabilities. So if we were really serious about continuing, the decision should have been talked about, and it was, a year ago or a year and a half ago, because we're on this track of where we're really ramping down. Now, could we go back and restart again? Frankly, yes, with the constraints and limitations I saw. But do you want to do that and then have that budget expenditure that then takes money away from the new program that's going to go beyond low Earth orbit? And those are the trades that are hard to make, and those are the things that are talked about in the Augustine report. They're talked about by others that speculate about what we ought to do in the future. And the hardest thing, I think, for us as executors and teams is there's a lot of noise in the system on the outside. And how do we keep our workforce and keep ourselves focused on what we're doing and don't get too distracted by all these what-if scenarios? So we've kind of, you know, when it gets tough and there's a lot of noise, we kind of focus on that next mission. We focus on that next objective. We know that if we don't execute the next mission and we don't leave station in the best posture, then we've not done our job. So this other stuff is interesting discussions, but we've got to really continue to deliver and continue to produce hardware. So, but that's very hard, I think, for us, and it becomes harder as people talk about options. But that's basically where we sit today.
Robert.
Hi, Robert Perlman with CollectSpace.com for Bill Gerstenmaier. You had about 120 NASA tweeters here at this time, and by some estimates they're reaching 150,000 people. And by their incoming tweets, it seems like they're watching this conference. What message would you want to see them take back from watching this launch and sharing it with all their followers and their communities as they go home?
Well, I got to see a few of the tweets that went out from the launch, and they're pretty amazing. What's exciting to me is that they've captured the spirit and the excitement that we all feel, and they were able to capture it in a very few number of characters in an email. So us with attention problems are really nice to read them, and they're amazing little short statements about what they felt about the launch, and if you go read through them, they're pretty special. So my message to them is thanks. They captured the excitement in not many characters that we feel all the time, and hopefully others will get a chance to feel the excitement of what we've done and what we're doing here.
And if I can do a quick follow-up, based on that success, would you want to see this continue for the remaining 5 shuttle launches, bringing tweeters back here?
We'll see what we can do. I mean, I don't know if it's the right venue, but I think again we need folks to recognize what we've done and what's going on with the shuttle. That this is a special time in our history. That when if you go look at Space Station, for example, and you see that 800,000-pound vehicle in orbit, with all the international partners participating, the fact that we're able to about ready to start doing research or continuing to do research, but do it in a more heavy manner. This is a tremendous time in spaceflight. And this last year, as Mike talked about and some others talked about, we've had a very successful year this year, and we need to cherish that. So if we can share that with a broader community of folks in general, we would like to do that as much as we can.
Okay, we're going to take one more question here before we go to our phone bridge to take a question.
Hi, Rory O'Neill with Westwood One Radio. First, a quick one for Mike Leinbach. Driving in this morning, I was wondering or reminded, do you still do the roadkill program? Because I wasn't sure if that was still ongoing. And the second one was, after this flight, walking back inside, I heard just 5 of those left from a bunch of people. I'm just wondering if you see it the same way. Suddenly that is 5 is a small number, and if you see that suddenly we're rushing to the end of all this.
Roadkill program, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, we have a lot of wildlife on the Space Center and on the wildlife refuge. And when we kill them with our cars, we are to call them in and get them picked up so they don't attract other animals, and especially around launch time. And that's still a very active program. Every time I run over something, I call it in. And it happens. Trust me, it happens. 5 to go. We were talking in the firing room today during some of the downtime about the number of missions to go and the number per vehicle to go. And it's starting to hit home, I have to admit to you. It's starting to hit home that there's only, after this one, there's 1 more scheduled for Atlantis, 2 more for each of the other vehicles. So yeah, it is starting to hit home. And one of the messages I'd like to get out is the love of the program that the workers have out here. And we just did a survey of the workforce and asking them if they're going to stay on through the remainder of the program. And I think the number was around 85 to 90%. They all said, yeah, I'm in it for the long haul. And it's my life. It's what I love to do. And they're going to be with us till the last shuttle flight. And again, that's a testament to the people and a love that they have for the program. And it's very, very hard to explain to people the feeling that you have working in the space program, especially the space shuttle program. You go out there and you see the people working day in and day out. You ask them to come in on 3rd shift, and they say, well, how many times this week would you need me in on 3rd shift? You don't hear a complaint. You hear, I'll do whatever you want me to do. It's an amazing workforce, and as I said before, just proud to represent it. And so yeah, it's starting to hit home that there are only so many flights to go. Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the phone line where Clara Moskowitz is online.
Yes, hi. This is for Bill Gerstenmaier, I think. And I'm wondering, are these carriers that Atlantis is bringing up, are they too large to be carried by any other existing spacecraft besides the shuttle right now? And just how vital is the space shuttle to carry up the remaining hardware you have for the station in terms of preparing for shuttle retirement?
Yeah, I think what's really unique here is that we could carry all this equipment essentially on one shuttle flight. There's about, I think, 27,000 pounds of cargo going to space station. So there's no way that you could, with any other vehicle, you could pack these 2 express logistics carriers with all the equipment and accomplish all that in a single mission. It would take, the individual parts, some of them can fit on other spacecraft, but then they'd have to be launched individually one at a time. But there's no way that you could do what Atlantis is doing this time with the amount of equipment that's going up on a single flight to go ahead and outfit station.
Thanks.
Okay, we're back. Todd.
Todd Halverson of Florida Today again, I think for Bill Gerstenmaier, maybe for Mike Moses. 6 of the 8 options that were laid out by the Augustine Commission would rely on commercial crew transportation to low Earth orbit, which would be a major change, of course, in national space policy because crew transportation always has been done by NASA, the government. And I was wondering what your view is on whether commercial crew transportation is the right way to go at this time or not.
Well, it's we're very, we're committed to commercial cargo for station. you know, we have both Orbital and SpaceX are going to be deliverers through the COTS program to deliver cargo to station, and I think that's sometimes overlooked as not being a critical activity, but that's extremely critical to the productivity of space station. You know, we've got the large spares up, but SpaceX can carry a lot of large components for us individually. If we needed to, SpaceX could potentially even carry the solar alpha rotary joint, that big large ring, if it needed to. So those commercial cargo carriers are really critical to us. So from my perspective, I would really like them to stay very focused on doing the cargo job, and then at the right time, I think commercial crew kind of makes sense for a commercial side to maybe do low Earth orbit. We'll go beyond low Earth orbit, but for right now, I'd like us to get a little further along in the cargo carrying side and see how that goes before we go move into crew. But we can start moving in that direction. We can start cleaning up our requirements, doing some preparatory work, start thinking about that, and get processes headed in that direction. But my personal focus was I really need this cargo, and if we don't get the cargo to station, and there's not really a reason for the crew to be there, then that kind of diminishes the need for crew. So it's a little backwards than we normally think of, but I think cargo is a very important thing, and I think there's a lot of challenges in front of them just with cargo.
James Dean.
Thanks again, James Dean from Florida Today. Mike Moses, just wondered if there's any update in the last couple days on the urine processing assembly up on station, and are you going to be taking hardware down on Atlantis? I think also you mentioned that they're good for a couple of months without it really working, but I think the next flight is more than a couple months away. So just wondered if you could just update again what's going on there.
Yeah, I think the look at a couple months was just all they had looked at that time. So that wasn't that in a couple months they were in a bad situation. It was we knew we were good for at least a couple months. And no real changes. We're still planning on changing out the distillation assembly and bringing it home on this flight. We're working on the stowage return plans now. And so we do have time set aside for the crew to do some troubleshooting work and disassembly work there. So no real change from the last update I gave you, but that's still a big objective for us.
Okay, we'll take a question from Greg Dobbs, and then there's a question in the far rear of the room as well. Greg, right here.
Thank you again, Greg Dobbs with HDNet Television. And asking another question for clarification, either of Bill or of Mike Moses. With respect to 5 remaining shuttle missions, are there just 5 tanks either already to go or in the pipeline? Or do you, silly question I suppose, keep a spare in case you run into a problem with one of the 5 tanks you need for the 5 remaining missions? And the second part of the same question is, Bill, there are a lot of us who casually say, well, the administration is saying maybe we'll add one more flight to the manifest. I think what you've told us is that won't happen, certainly not within a matter of months. I mean, there are only 5 flights on the manifest, and that's all you can do unless there are some major changes.
We have a contingency flight to back up for the last flight. So there's an extra tank and an extra set of solids that shows up on our manifest that's there to back up that last flight. So in a sense, if something occurred in a tank processing, we could potentially juggle the tanks around. We'd have to slip schedule probably a little bit to pull all that off, but there is essentially an extra flight set ready for a contingency flight. So just like we did for the other missions, we have a contingency crew rescue flight available to us.
And when Bill says contingency flight, that's not in case something goes wrong in processing. That's the launch on need rescue tank. And so if during ascent of the last mission we had some impact problem that we could not return that orbiter, we'd have another tank, orbiter, and booster set to go launch our rescue mission. So it's our rescue set. It's not really a backup set.
That being the case, let's say you get to the end of the 5 scheduled flights after Atlantis right now, and you've been given the opportunity to run one more flight, but you don't have a contingency set for that last flight. You see where I'm going. I'm asking, could you then add a 6th flight?
I don't know. We'll look at all that stuff and see what makes sense at the time when we get there and see what direction we get. So I can't speculate one way or the other, but we would go look at all that and see.
Okay, in the back of the room.
Yes, Megan Nelson with Nashville Public Television. I had a follow-up question on the tweet up. I believe it has created a lot of excitement for the youth of today, and I was wondering if you had any suggestions on how we could build on that excitement and, maintain more excitement with NASA.
Let's see. We'll ask the youth.
Yeah, right. Well, we need to, that's one of our challenges is to see how we can reach out. The things I saw too, they shared some of the tweets with me, and I kind of echo what Bill said is if you come down and you see a launch and it's your first one ever, I'm a little biased, right? But I think you guys have seen your first launch. You cannot really leave here without feeling a sense of inspiration just in what we can accomplish, no matter whether we're going to the space station or we're going to the moon. The act of putting a rocket out there on the launch pad and sending it into orbit is just cool. I know what better word for it, right? And so how do you get that message to enough people? I'd love to see us throw open the gates and have everybody come down and pack the causeway with cars and bring everybody we can. We have some security and safety limitations to being able to do that. But as we head out and end the shuttle program, we were just talking about that today. Mike let in the firing room for the first time in a while, a film crew to come in and walk around and actually see some of the guys, the people doing the work. We're going to do a lot more of that, trying to document what we do and how we do it so that we can share that with the public, and hopefully it'll be kind of after the fact, but kind of inspire them and show them what we've been doing. And so we really kind of need your help to let us know what's the best avenue to reach out to. The tweet up was a really good kind of almost user suggestions, and stuff like that would be really good to do in the future too.
But I think, again, what Mike said is really important, is that we need folks to tell us what they think works and what's exciting and what gets them motivated. We have a very unique perspective. We get a chance to walk around and interact with all the folks that are doing the real work, and you don't get an appreciation until you've really spent time with them. And I've had the privilege throughout the entire shuttle program of being in this program. So I'm continually amazed at how deep, how broad, and how many folks are involved in this program. It's not only the folks here at Kennedy, but throughout the country that have that same dedication that Mike talked about. And then when I see all that come together in culmination in a launch, for me, it's amazing. So when they see a launch, I think they feel the emotion, but for us it's even deeper, because we know how much commitment has come from an unbelievable workforce that is really dedicated their lives, and the perfection required from this team is unbelievable. I mean, you cannot, when you torque down a bolt, it has to be exactly the right torque limit. It has to be lock wired, it has to be glued. The precision is just unbelievable, and the folks that build main engines and put solid rocket motors together, assemble the hardware here at the Cape, it's a tremendous workforce. And then to get to see it launch is really special. So we need inputs from folks that how do we capture that, and how do we get the message out the right way.
Here in the front.
Kim Kramer for the Planetary Society, for Mike Leinbach. I'd like to talk a little bit more about the workforce. You mentioned that there was this very short turnaround for Atlantis. How were these people able to accomplish this great task of so few problems under these very trying conditions?
Well, the trying conditions, the hardware was good to us. I have to admit, obviously, that Atlantis is a good machine. The plan that we put together is a good integrated plan. As I say, if we need help from another orbiter, we can call on that processing team to help us out. We didn't have to do that very much at all in Atlantis' flow. The planners, we have a whole group of people who do nothing but plan the work, and they are very, very experienced, and we run into a hiccup, we have to replan that work. We meet every day with the processing team to lay out that work. We ask what they can accomplish, what they can't accomplish, and we adjust the plan every day, sometimes twice a day. And so it's a combination of hardware being good to us, experienced processing team and experienced planners to put the plan together, and then again, just the love of the people doing the work. We could not do all this work if we didn't enjoy it. It's just, as Bill said, it's an amazing amount of work. Some of it's very, very repetitive. But you'd be amazed at how often a repetitive job becomes a job of love by the people themselves. Yeah, I've torqued that same bolt down on this ship 100 times, but by God, on number 101, I'm going to do it the same way, and it happens every time. So it's just you have to see it and feel it to understand. I wish I could explain it to you. It's just an amazing team to go see work. We keep saying that, and I don't know how to say it any differently. Just lovely people work on this program.
It comes from within?
It does. It comes from within, and one of the things I like to reflect on a little bit, and it's a little bit sad, of course, is the Columbia accident, and when we lost Columbia, a lot of the people that worked on the reconstruction, I got to help out on that task. We lost 7 astronauts, and that was awful, just devastating. but we also lost an orbiter. And it's hard to explain to people that when we lost Columbia, that was like losing a family member almost. It's almost that deep when you work on these machines day in and day out, and then go experience a launch. And you have that celebration. There's so many jobs that I see, you know, across the country where the people don't get to celebrate a major accomplishment like we do so often, and that helps out just a hell of a lot. It's a great team to be part of.
All right, we're going to wrap and head up to space. We want to thank you all for coming. By now, Atlantis' payload bay doors are open and the crew is off to work. We invite you to follow this mission, STS-129, on the NASA webpage at www.nasa.gov/shuttle. And now we'll head off to Mission Control in Houston. Thank you again.